The morning shift at Meridian Naval Air Station began like any other, with coffee brewing in the operations center and maintenance crews checking radar systems in the cool autumn air. Lieutenant Jake Martinez had been managing the base communications center for 3 years, and he prided himself on knowing every voice that came through his radio systems. Military personnel spoke with a certain confidence, their communications crisp and protocols perfect. Civilian contractors had a different cadence, less formal, but still efficient. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The young woman sitting at the administrative desk in the corner of the communications center had none of those speech patterns. She couldn't have been more than 5'5", dressed in a perfectly pressed navy skirt suit that seemed one size too conservative for someone her age. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her glasses slipped down her nose every time she focused on the requisition forms in front of her. She'd been working at the base for 18 months, just quietly processing paperwork while the real military business happened around her. Just another secretary from the civilian hiring program, Martinez muttered to his deputy, Chief Petty Officer Samantha Woods. They rotate through here every couple of years. Woods glanced across the room at the woman. In this environment, she's going to get eaten alive when the Admiral visits tomorrow. Not our problem. She wants to push papers in a military installation. That's her choice. What Martinez didn't know was that the woman's name was Diana Chun, and 4 years ago she had been the most exceptional test pilot in the Navy's Experimental Aircraft Division. Her call sign, Phantom, had once represented the future of naval aviation. But that was before the classified mission that changed everything. Before she had disappeared from military records into the shadow world between active service and civilian life. Now she sat in silence, processing requisition forms, while monitoring communications across 3 bases through a specialized earpiece hidden beneath her hair. Her fingers occasionally brushed against a worn metal pendant around her neck, a miniature aircraft wing with the number 117 etched into it. Squadron 117, her squadron, her family. Inside the base commander's office, Captain Richard Warner was having the worst morning of his 30-year career. Intelligence reports showed a potential hostile force approaching from international waters, with aircraft carriers detected within striking distance of American territory. Defensive systems are operating at 60% capacity, reported systems specialist Nita Patel, her voice tight with concern. Last diagnostics showed multiple critical failures in the automated response network. Security protocols have been activated, but we're running on backup systems. Warner studied the tactical display with growing apprehension. If hostile aircraft launched, Meridian's defensive capabilities would be severely compromised. The base housed not only personnel but classified research projects and next-generation aircraft prototypes. A successful attack would be devastating to national security. "What's the status of our alert fighters?" Warner asked. 3 F-35s are mission-ready, sir, but our primary runway is undergoing repairs. Secondary runway is operational, but requires advanced landing skills due to the shortened approach. We've requested additional air support from Langley, but they're at least 90 minutes out. Through the reinforced windows of the command center, Warner could see maintenance crews working frantically to repair the defense systems. Engineers with diagnostic equipment surrounded the main radar array, and security personnel were establishing additional checkpoints around the perimeter. "Sir," Patel continued, "communications with Pacific Command are unstable. We're experiencing unexplained interference across all secure channels." Warner's jaw tightened. "This isn't a coincidence. Alert all personnel. This could be the prelude to an attack." At her desk, Diana felt her encrypted military phone vibrate in her jacket pocket. The device was outdated by commercial standards, but featured military-grade security that commercial phones couldn't match. Only a handful of people had this number, and most of them thought she had left military service permanently. She answered discreetly, turning toward the wall. "This is Diana." The voice on the other end was urgent but controlled. "Phantom, it's Admiral Blackwood. We have a situation developing at Meridian." Diana recognized the voice immediately. Admiral Catherine Blackwood, head of Naval Aviation Special Projects, and one of the few people who knew about Diana's unique arrangement with the military. "The base defensive systems have been compromised. We're detecting what appears to be a coordinated cyber attack preceding potential airstrikes. Meridian houses the prototype designs for the next generation of stealth technology. If those fall into hostile hands—" "I understand," Diana said quietly, her posture remaining casual as if she were discussing lunch plans. "What's the timeline?" "Intelligence suggests possible aircraft launch within the hour. The base is operating on reduced capacity. Most of the command staff are at the Regional Defense Summit in Washington." Diana processed this information quickly. "And why are you calling me instead of deploying standard protocols?" The line went silent for a moment. "Because we believe this is connected to Operation Kingfisher." Diana's hand tightened around the phone. Operation Kingfisher was the classified mission that had ended her official career as a test pilot. A mission that had been scrubbed from military records, but apparently wasn't as buried as everyone had thought. "I'm at Meridian now," Diana replied. "Administrative position, communications section." The Admiral's voice registered surprise. "That wasn't in your assignment parameters." "I go where the intel leads me. I've been tracking unusual communications patterns for the past 3 months. Meridian wasn't random." "Then you're exactly where you need to be. Your official status remains civilian administrative support, but your emergency authorization codes have been reactivated. Authorization Omega-7 Delta." Diana committed the code to memory. "Understood. What's my objective?" "Protect the prototypes and the research data. Do whatever is necessary. And Diana, be careful. The people behind this have been planning for a long time." As she ended the call, Diana caught Lieutenant Martinez watching her with mild curiosity, probably wondering why a secretary was making personal calls during a potential crisis situation. If only he knew that the unassuming woman in sensible shoes had once broken 8 aviation records in experimental aircraft that most pilots would be terrified to fly. But Diana had learned long ago that respect wasn't something you demanded with credentials or history. It was something you earned one crisis at a time. Inside the command center, Captain Warner was coordinating emergency responses with his reduced staff. "Get me the status of every pilot currently on base," he ordered. Lieutenant Commander Jackson checked the personnel roster. "Sir, we have 4 qualified F-35 pilots on base, but Major Reynolds and Captain Diaz are in medical after the training incident yesterday." "That leaves Lieutenant Kemp and Captain Harris," Warner said. 2 pilots, 3 aircraft. Not ideal. Diana slipped into the command center unnoticed. Delivering a stack of authorization forms had provided her the perfect cover to assess the situation. The tactical displays showed what she already suspected, a coordinated attack designed to cripple Meridian's defenses before a physical assault. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Martinez, "we're picking up unusual signals. Possible hostile aircraft launching from carriers approximately 200 miles offshore." Warner's face remained composed, but Diana could see the tension in his shoulders. "How many?" "Initial radar shows 6, possibly 8 aircraft. Signature matching suggests advanced fighters with stealth capabilities. Alert our pilots. I want those F-35s in the air in 15 minutes. Diana finished arranging her papers and turned to leave, her mind already formulating contingency plans. As the door closed behind her, she heard Martinez add, "Sir, we're..." also detecting what appears to be electronic warfare measures. Our remaining radar capabilities may be compromised within 30 minutes. Moving with purpose but without drawing attention, Diana made her way to her small office adjacent to the communication center. From a hidden compartment in her desk, she retrieved a specialized tablet, military-grade hardware disguised as a civilian device. Within seconds, she had accessed Meridian security systems using the authorization code Blackwood had provided. The situation was worse than she'd feared. The base's intrusion detection system showed multiple security breaches across the network. Someone had been methodically dismantling Meridian's defenses for days, and the regular security protocols had failed to detect the pattern. Diana pulled up the schematics for the base, focusing on the research hangar where the prototype aircraft were stored. If this attack was connected to Operation Kingfisher, then the primary target wouldn't be the base itself. It would be the XF-42 Wraith prototype, the next-generation stealth fighter that incorporated technology she had helped develop before her apparent retirement. A series of alerts flashed across her screen. Radar had confirmed the approaching aircraft, now estimated at 12 hostile fighters. Meridian's 2 pilots were rushing to their F-35s, but they would be hopelessly outnumbered. More concerning were the anomalies Diana detected in the base's automated defense systems. Someone had reprogrammed the friend or foe identification protocols. When Meridian's pilots took off, there was a high probability that the base's own defensive weapons would target them. Diana made her decision. Removing her glasses and pulling her hair free from its restrictive bun, she retrieved a small case from her desk drawer. Inside was a specialized communications device that connected directly to the base's secure systems. With quick, practiced movements, she overrode the compromised defense protocols, creating a temporary window where Meridian's fighters could safely depart. Next, she accessed the personnel files, confirming what she already suspected. Lieutenant Ryan Kemp and Captain Mia Harris were excellent pilots, but neither had the specialized training needed to counter the type of electronic warfare being deployed against the base. They would be flying blind within minutes of engagement. Outside, alarms began to sound as the base moved to combat readiness. Diana could hear personnel running through the corridors, following emergency protocols that had been practiced but never implemented in a real attack. She slipped out of her office and moved against the flow of traffic, heading toward the research hangar where the prototypes were kept. "Hey, where are you going?" A security officer blocked her path, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. "All administrative personnel need to report to the designated shelter areas." Diana held up her ID badge. "Diana Chun, Special Projects Liaison. I have clearance for the research sector." The officer scanned her badge with a handheld device. The authorization code Blackwood had activated caused the scanner to display a security clearance far above what a secretary should possess. I'm sorry, ma'am," the officer stammered, clearly confused by the discrepancy between her appearance and her clearance level. "Do you need an escort?" "That won't be necessary," Diana replied, already moving past him. "Focus on securing the perimeter." As she approached the research hangar, Diana could hear the roar of engines as Meridian's 2 F-35s prepared for takeoff. Through the windows, she watched the aircraft taxi toward the runway, their pilots about to face overwhelming odds with compromised systems. The research hangar was secured by both electronic and physical measures. Diana's authentication codes granted her access through the initial barriers, but the final security checkpoint required biometric confirmation from authorized research personnel. "I'm sorry, Ms. Chun," said the security officer manning the checkpoint, "but your clearance doesn't extend to the prototype area during security alerts." Diana nodded, understanding his adherence to protocol. "Contact Admiral Blackwood, authorization. Code Omega-7 Delta should confirm my access." The officer looked skeptical but followed procedure, initiating the secure communication. While he was distracted, Diana observed the hangar through the reinforced glass walls. Inside sat the XF-42 Wraith prototype, the culmination of 10 years of research and the most advanced aircraft ever developed by the United States military. Next to it were 3 standard F-35s, designated for testing comparative stealth capabilities. The officer's expression changed as he received confirmation from higher command. "Miss Chun, I apologize for the delay. You have full access to the facility." As the doors opened, Diana heard the distinctive sound of Meridian's defenders taking off, 2 F-35s against 12 enemy aircraft. The odds were impossible by any conventional assessment. Inside the hangar, research personnel were frantically securing data and preparing to evacuate critical components. Dr. Eliza Weaver, the lead engineer on the Wraith project, looked up in surprise as Diana entered. "Who authorized civilian access?" "During a security lockdown?" she demanded. Diana walked directly to the nearest computer terminal, bypassing the question. "Dr. Weaver, I need you to initiate data purge protocols on all Wraith schematics immediately." "Excuse me?" "I don't take orders from administrative staff." Diana accessed the terminal using her authorization code, bringing up classified files that no secretary should have been able to view. "I'm not administrative staff. I'm the test pilot who helped design the neural interface systems for the Wraiths. Enhanced avionics." Dr. Weaver's expression shifted from indignation to shock. "That's impossible. Those systems were developed by Captain Diana Chun, and she was removed from active service 4 years ago after Operation Kingfisher." Diana finished for her. "The official story, yes. The truth is more complicated, and right now, it's irrelevant. What matters is that 12 hostile aircraft are incoming. Our defenses have been compromised, and everything you've worked for is their primary target." Understanding dawned on Weaver's face. "You're Phantom." Diana nodded once, already moving toward the prototype. "Begin the data purge. I need to get the Wraith out of here." "That's impossible," Weaver protested. "The Wraith systems are still experimental. The neural interface has only been tested in simulations. No one has actually flown it yet." "I have," Diana replied, running her hand along the aircraft's sleek fuselage. "Just not with everyone watching." Over the communications system, they could hear the tactical updates as Meridian's 2 defenders engaged the first wave of hostile aircraft. Lieutenant Kemp's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Enemy aircraft employing advanced electronic countermeasures. Targeting systems compromised. Switching to manual targeting protocols." Captain Harris followed immediately. "Confirmed hostile intent. Enemy aircraft have locked weapon systems. Engaging defensive maneuvers." Dr. Weaver looked at Diana with growing realization. Even if you could fly the Wraith, the automated systems won't recognize you as an authorized pilot. Diana was already climbing the access ladder to the prototype's cockpit. "Override authorization, Phantom 117. The system will recognize me." As Diana settled into the cockpit, the familiar embrace of the pilot's seat triggered memories of countless test flights and experimental missions. The Wraith systems were far more advanced than anything currently deployed. A neural interface that connected directly with the pilot's cognitive processes, allowing for reaction times and precision beyond human limitations. Dr. Weaver's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Chun, the system is recognizing your authorization, but the Wraith isn't ready for combat operations. The weapon systems haven't been fully calibrated." "I'm not planning to engage the enemy directly," Diana replied, powering up the aircraft systems. "I'm going to give our pilots the edge they need by deploying the Wraith's electronic countermeasure capabilities." The cockpit came alive around her, displays illuminating with information far beyond what conventional aircraft provided. Diana attached the neural sensors to her temples, feeling the slight tingling sensation as the Wraith established connection with her neural patterns. "Captain Chun," came a new voice over the communication system. It was Captain Warner from the command center. "Dr. Weaver has informed me of your unusual status. Be advised that taking the prototype without proper authorization would normally be considered theft of military property." Diana continued the pre-flight sequence, her hands moving with practiced precision. "Noted, Captain. Will there be anything else?" There was a pause then. "Our pilots are reporting critical failures in their targeting systems. Enemy electronic. Warfare is more advanced than anything we've encountered. They're fighting blind out there. That's why I'm taking the Wraith. Its systems are specifically designed to counter these types of measures." Another pause. Diana could almost hear the internal struggle as Warner weighed military regulations against the immediate threat. "Finally, understood, Captain Chun. Consider yourself temporarily reinstated. Designation Phantom, flying experimental aircraft. XF-42. May God help us all." The hangar doors began to open, revealing the chaos unfolding outside. In the distance, Diana could see flashes of light as Meridian's defenders engaged the hostile forces against impossible odds. Emergency personnel were evacuating non-essential staff, and security teams were establishing defensive positions around critical infrastructure. "Phantom, this is Lieutenant Kemp," came a strained voice over the tactical channel. "We've lost targeting capabilities. Fighting on visual confirmation only. Enemy aircraft are using some kind of advanced stealth technology. They're appearing and disappearing from sensors." "Hold position, Lieutenant," Deanna responded, the Wraith's engines humming to life beneath her. "Support is inbound." As the prototype rolled toward the hangar exit, Dr. Weaver's voice came through one last time. "The neural interface hasn't been tested in combat conditions. The sensory input might be overwhelming if you push it too hard." "I know they." "Risks," Deanna replied calmly. "But right now, the alternative is watching everything we've worked for fall into enemy hands." The Wraith emerged from the hangar into the afternoon sunlight, its advanced surfaces absorbing and redirecting light in ways that made it difficult to focus on directly. To anyone watching from the ground, the aircraft seemed to shimmer and shift as if it were partially transparent. "Control, this is Phantom requesting emergency takeoff clearance." Captain Warner's voice came back immediately. "Cleared for takeoff, Phantom. Be advised, enemy aircraft have breached our outer defensive perimeter. We're detecting what appears to be a specialized electronic warfare platform coordinating their attack." Diana taxied the prototype to the secondary runway, shorter than standard, requiring precision that would challenge even experienced pilots. For the Wraith, with its experimental control systems, the margin for error was virtually non-existent. "Phantom, be advised," came Lieutenant Martinez's voice from communications, his tone reflecting shock at hearing the secretary on military channels. "That runway is severely compromised. Minimum safe length for conventional takeoff is—" "I'm not using a conventional takeoff," Diana interrupted, pushing the throttle forward. The Wraith leaped forward with acceleration that would have incapacitated an unprepared pilot. Through the neural interface, Diana could feel the aircraft, responding not just to her physical inputs but to her intentions. The Wraith understood what she needed before her hands had fully completed the movements. 3 seconds into the takeoff roll, she knew the shortened runway wouldn't be sufficient for normal procedures. Adjusting her approach, Diana pushed the Wraith into a modified short takeoff, a maneuver that existed in theoretical flight manuals, but had never been attempted in an aircraft of this size and configuration. The Wraith left the ground at a steep angle, engines straining against physics as Diana guided it into a near-vertical climb that would have stalled any conventional fighter. "My God," she heard someone whisper over the open channel as the Wraith disappeared into the clouds, leaving only a shimmering distortion in the air where a secretary had just performed a takeoff that defied Aeronautical Engineering Principles. At 15,000 feet, Diana leveled the aircraft and activated its specialized systems. The neural interface expanded her awareness, feeding sensor data directly into her consciousness rather than requiring her to interpret displays and readings. She could feel the electronic battlespace around her. The hostile electronic warfare measures like storm clouds of digital interference. The struggling systems of Meridian's defenders like fading lights in darkness. Lieutenant Kemp, Captain. Harris, this is Phantom, she transmitted. I'm deploying countermeasures against enemy electronic warfare. Stand by for systems restoration. The Wraith's advanced electronic warfare suite came online, designed specifically to counteract the type of attacks being deployed against Meridian. Diana directed the systems through the neural interface, her mind processing complex electronic countermeasures at speeds no conventional pilot could match. Phantom, this is Harris, came the astonished reply. My targeting systems just came back online. What kind of aircraft are you flying? The classified kind, Diana responded, already maneuvering the Wraith toward the main engagement zone. Focus on the 4 hostiles approaching from Vector 220. I'll handle their electronic warfare platform. Through the Wraith's enhanced sensors, Diana could identify the aircraft controlling the electronic attack, a specialized variant positioned behind the main assault force, its systems generating the interference that had crippled Meridian's defenses. Phantom, be advised, came Captain Warner's voice. Additional hostile forces detected launching from carrier group. Estimated time to engagement, 12 minutes. Diana processed this information while simultaneously analyzing the battle space through the Wraith systems. Understood. Priority remains neutralizing their electronic warfare capabilities. The neural interface was performing beyond expectations, allowing Diana to control the aircraft with unprecedented precision. Yet she could feel the strain building. The human brain wasn't designed to process information at this rate for extended periods. A warning flashed through her consciousness as the interface detected elevated stress patterns. Diana acknowledged it but maintained focus on her approach. The electronic warfare platform had detected her presence and was redirecting its efforts, attempting to penetrate the Wraith's defensive systems. Diana felt the attack like pressure against her thoughts, an unsettling sensation of another presence pushing against her consciousness through the neural link. She compartmentalized the discomfort, focusing instead on the complex electronic countermeasures required to neutralize the threat. Kemp, Harris, I need you to create a diversion, she transmitted. Make them think you're attempting to engage their main force directly. Copy that, Phantom, Lieutenant Kemp responded, his F-35 already banking toward the hostile formation. Though I have about 1,000 questions about how our secretary is suddenly flying experimental aircraft. I'll explain over coffee if we survive, Deanna replied, allowing herself a small smile as she guided the Wraith into position. Executing electronic attack now. The Wraith's specialized systems deployed, projecting focused electromagnetic pulses designed to overwhelm and disable enemy electronics without affecting friendly systems. Through the neural interface, Diana could visualize the attack like ripples spreading across water, disrupting the hostile electronic warfare platform's operations. The effect was immediate. The enemy formation faltered as their coordinated systems failed, communication channels collapsed, and targeting systems reset. In the momentary confusion, Kemp and Harris pressed their advantage, engaging the disorganized hostiles with renewed effectiveness. It's working, Harris called out. Their formation is breaking apart, targeting systems fully operational. Diana maintained focus on the electronic warfare platform, which was attempting to re-establish control. Through the Wraith's sensors, she detected a familiar signature in the platform's operating patterns, coding structures she had encountered during Operation Kingfisher 4 years ago. Control, be advised, I'm confirming connection between current hostiles and Operation Kingfisher, she reported. Same electronic signature, same operational patterns. Understood, Phantom, Warner replied. Priority remains defending the base and neutralizing immediate threats. Historical connections can be investigated later. Diana acknowledged the order, but the confirmation troubled her. Operation Kingfisher had been classified at the highest levels, a mission to identify and neutralize a network of operatives stealing advanced military technology. The mission had officially failed, resulting in her removal from active service. If the same people were behind this attack, it meant the threat had never been eliminated. It had only gone deeper underground. A warning flashed through the neural interface. The strain on both the aircraft systems and Diana's neural pathways was approaching critical levels. Sustained operation of the experimental systems was exceeding safety parameters. Phantom, our sensors are showing instability in your aircraft's power systems. Dr. Weaver's concerned voice came through. The neural interface is consuming more energy than anticipated. You need to disengage and return to base. Diana could feel the growing pressure in her mind as the interface struggled to maintain optimal function. Disengaging now would leave Meridian vulnerable to the second wave of hostile aircraft approaching from the carrier group. The Wraith was their only effective defense against the advanced electronic warfare capabilities demonstrated by the enemy. Negative, Dr. Weaver. Mission parameters require continued engagement. Through the neural link, Diana directed the Wraith toward the approaching second wave, her mind calculating intercept vectors and electronic countermeasure patterns simultaneously. The aircraft responded with perfect precision, moving through the sky with maneuverability that defied conventional aerodynamics. Phantom, this is Harris. First wave neutralized. 3 hostiles retreating. 2 disabled. Kemp and I are running low on fuel. We need to return to base for resupply. Understood. Return to Meridian. I'll delay the second wave. Diana could see the approaching formation on her sensors. 8 aircraft with electronic signatures, matching the first wave, plus what appeared to be 2 additional electronic warfare platforms. The odds were impossible by any conventional assessment. Phantom, this is Captain Warner. We're detecting multiple missile launches from the carrier group. Cruise missiles on approach to Meridian. Estimated impact in 11 minutes. The situation had just become significantly worse. The air attack was a diversion for a missile strike targeting the base directly. Diana adjusted her strategy, prioritizing threats according to their potential impact. Control, I can intercept the second wave or attempt to neutralize the cruise. Missiles, but not both. Request prioritization. Warner's response was immediate. Protect the base, Phantom. Our ground-based missile defense might handle some of the air attack, but without your electronic countermeasures, the cruise missiles will bypass our systems completely. Copy that. Diana banked the Wraith sharply, accelerating toward the incoming cruise missiles. The neural interface fed targeting data directly into her consciousness, highlighting intercept vectors and vulnerability points in the missile's guidance systems. Through the Wraith sensors, she could detect the sophisticated electronic protection surrounding the cruise missiles, systems designed to defeat conventional countermeasures. But the Wraith wasn't conventional, and neither was its pilot. Diana engaged the aircraft's most advanced electronic warfare capabilities, targeting the missile's guidance systems with precisely calculated interference patterns. The neural interface allowed her to adjust these patterns in real time, responding to the missile's automated defensive measures faster than any human pilot could manage without the direct neural connection. One by one, the cruise missiles began to veer off course, their guidance systems compromised by the Wraith's electronic attack. Some self-destructed as their fail-safe protocols activated, while others diverted into harmless flight paths over the ocean. Control, cruise missile threat. Neutralized, Diana reported, her voice betraying the strain of maintaining the neural connection. Redirecting to engage second wave of hostile aircraft. Another warning flashed through the interface. Critical system instability detected. The Wraith's experimental power systems were approaching failure points never encountered during testing. Simultaneously, Diana could feel the neural interface beginning to affect her cognitive functions, the massive data flow overwhelming her brain's processing capabilities. "Phantom, your aircraft is showing multiple critical warnings." Dr. Weaver's urgent voice came through. "The power fluctuations are affecting the neural interface stability. You need to disengage immediately." Diana acknowledged the danger but maintained course toward the approaching hostile aircraft. The Wraith was Meridian's only effective defense against their advanced electronic warfare capabilities. "Negative, Dr. Weaver. Maintaining mission parameters." The second wave of hostile aircraft appeared on visual range, their formation tightening as they detected the Wraith's approach. Unlike the first wave, these pilots had been warned about the experimental aircraft's capabilities and were adjusting their tactics accordingly. Diana felt rather than saw their electronic countermeasures activate, a pressure against her thoughts through the neural interface. The sensation was disorienting, like trying to think through static. The Wraith systems compensated automatically, but the additional strain pushed the aircraft's already overtaxed systems closer to failure. "Control, hostile electronic countermeasures are adapting to our systems," she reported. "The Wraith's effectiveness is decreasing." Warner's response was grim. "Understood, Phantom. Be advised, we've lost contact with our missile defense system. Base is defenseless against air attack. You're our only option." Diana processed this information, while simultaneously fighting through the electronic interference affecting the neural interface. The situation had become untenable. The Wraith couldn't maintain its electronic countermeasures indefinitely, and Meridian's conventional defenses were offline. A new strategy formed in her mind, risky but potentially decisive. "Control, I'm implementing contingency protocol, Sierra 9. There was a moment of silence before Warner responded. "Sierra 9 is a theoretical protocol. It's never been tested outside simulation." "Neither had the Wraith until today," Diana replied, already reprogramming the aircraft systems through the neural interface. "Sierra 9 was a last resort. Electronic warfare measure designed to create a massive electromagnetic pulse, precisely calibrated to affect only specific electronic signatures. In theory, it could disable all hostile systems while leaving friendly electronics untouched. In practice, it required processing power beyond what any conventional aircraft could manage, and would likely burn out the Wraith systems completely." "Dr. Weaver, I need full power to the electromagnetic array," Diana transmitted. "Divert all non-essential systems." "Captain Chun, that will overload the neural interface," Weaver protested. "The feedback could cause permanent neural damage." "Understood. Proceeding with Sierra 9. Diana redirected the Wraith's power systems, channeling everything into the electromagnetic array. Through the neural interface, she could feel the enormous energy building within the aircraft, a gathering storm of electronic potential that would either save Meridian or destroy the most advanced aircraft ever developed. The hostile formation detected the energy buildup and began evasive maneuvers, their electronic warfare systems attempting to disrupt whatever was coming. Their countermeasures manifested as increasing pressure against Diana's consciousness, making it difficult to maintain the precise calculations needed for Sierra 9. Warning messages cascaded through the neural interface. System failures. Power fluctuations, neural pathway strain beyond safe parameters. Diana pushed through the warnings, focusing entirely on calibrating the electromagnetic pulse to target only the hostile electronic signatures. "Sierra 9 deployment in 5 seconds," she transmitted, her voice tight with the effort of maintaining control. "All Meridian systems, initiate electronic protection protocols." The countdown seemed to stretch into eternity as Diana held the Wraith steady against the growing instability. The neural interface was becoming painful, each data packet feeling like needles against her consciousness. 3, 2, 1. Deploying Sierra 9. The Wraith released the electromagnetic pulse, a sphere of invisible energy expanding outward at the speed of light. Through the neural interface, Diana could visualize its effect, watching as it encountered and disabled the hostile electronic systems one by one. The enemy aircraft faltered, their coordinated electronic warfare collapsing as Sierra 9 targeted their specific signatures. Flight controls reverted to manual backups, communications went silent, and targeting systems failed completely. Simultaneously, the Wraith systems began to fail. Power surged through circuits never designed to handle such loads, burning out advanced components and overloading the neural interface. Diana felt each failure as a spike of pain through the connection, her consciousness bombarded with error messages and system alarms. Sierra 9 successful, she managed to report. Hostile electronic capabilities neutralized. The Wraith is critical. The neural interface fluctuated wildly, the connection between pilot and aircraft becoming unstable. Diana fought to maintain control as the Wraith began to lose altitude, its flight systems failing one by one. Phantom, your aircraft is in unrecoverable descent. Warner's voice came through the static. Eject immediately. Diana assessed the situation through the degrading neural link. The Wraith was falling, but not toward the ocean. Its trajectory would take it directly into Meridian's main runway, potentially destroying vital infrastructure and endangering personnel. Negative on ejection, she responded, fighting through the pain of the destabilizing neural connection. The Wraith would impact the base, attempting emergency landing. That's impossible, Dr. Weaver broke in. Flight systems are completely compromised. The neural interface is failing. You can't possibly maintain control. Diana didn't respond, focusing all her remaining strength on maintaining the deteriorating connection with the aircraft. Through the neural interface, she could still sense the Wraith's damaged systems, could still exert some control over its descent. Meridian Naval Air Station appeared through the clouds below, its buildings and runways growing larger as the Wraith continued its controlled fall. Diana guided the aircraft toward the secondary runway, shorter than standard, but away from the main base infrastructure. The Wraith was designed to be nearly invisible to conventional radar, but as it descended toward Meridian Naval Air Station, every person on the ground could see it, a sleek, dark shape against the clouds, trailing smoke and electrical discharges as its experimental systems failed catastrophically. Emergency personnel scrambled across the base, preparing for what seemed like an inevitable disaster. In the control tower, Captain Warner watched the Wraith's descent with a mixture of dread and astonishment. Is she actually trying to land? That thing? Lieutenant Martinez, who just hours ago had dismissed Diana as just a secretary, stood transfixed by the radar display. Sir, the aircraft is maintaining a controlled descent pattern despite catastrophic system failures. I don't understand how that's possible. It's not possible, Dr. Weaver said, her voice tight with tension as she monitored the Wraith's failing systems. The flight controls are offline. The only thing connecting the pilot to the aircraft is the neural interface, and that's degrading by the second. Warner grabbed the radio. Phantom, this is Control. All data indicates safe landing. Is impossible. Eject now. That's an order. Inside the crippled aircraft, Diana fought through waves of pain as the neural interface fluctuated wildly. Each system failure sent feedback through the connection, like electrical shocks directly to her brain. Her vision blurred, alternating between the physical world outside the cockpit and the digital landscape of the aircraft systems. Negative on ejection, she responded, her voice strained but determined. The Wraith contains classified technology. I can bring it in. The secondary runway approached rapidly, its shortened length making the conventional landing impossible. Even with fully functional systems, Diana would have only one attempt, with no room for error and no functioning instrumentation except what she could perceive through the degrading neural link. "All personnel clear the runway," Warner ordered. "Emergency teams stand by, but maintain safe distance." Diana could feel the Wraith fighting her, its damaged systems struggling against her commands. Through sheer force of will, she maintained the mental connection, becoming one with the dying aircraft in a way that transcended conventional piloting. 200 feet, Martinez counted down. Descent rate still too fast. Dr. Weaver stared at her diagnostic display in disbelief. She's redirecting her own neural patterns through the interface to compensate for the failed systems. That's theoretically impossible. 100 feet. Approach angle stabilizing. Diana couldn't hear the communications anymore. The world had narrowed to just her and the Wraith, their fates inextricably linked. She guided the aircraft through pure instinct, feeling its movements as if they were extensions of her own body. The Wraith touched down at the very edge of the runway, its landing gear collapsing immediately upon impact. The aircraft skidded across the tarmac in a shower of sparks, metal screaming against concrete as its sleek form was torn apart by the forces of deceleration. Emergency crews raced toward the wreckage, expecting the worst. The Wraith had finally come to rest, a smoking hulk of advanced technology reduced to twisted metal and shattered components. "Get that cockpit open now," Warner ordered through the radio as he ran from the control tower, sprinting toward the crash site. Firefighters approached the wreckage cautiously, wary of potential electrical discharges from the experimental systems. The canopy was cracked but intact, obscuring their view of the pilot inside. With specialized equipment, they forced it open, prepared for a grisly scene. Instead, they found Diana Chun still strapped in her seat, blood trickling from her nose and ears, but conscious. The neural interface sensors remained attached to her temples, lights still flickering weakly as the final connections between pilot and aircraft faded. "Medical team, immediate extraction," the lead firefighter called. "Pilot is alive." As they carefully removed her from the wreckage, Diana struggled to focus on the faces around her. The neural disconnection left her disoriented, her mind still, trying to process information through systems that no longer existed. "The enemy aircraft," she managed to say as they transferred her to a waiting stretcher. "Status?" Captain Warner appeared at her side, his expression a complex mixture of awe and concern. "Neutralized or retreating. Your Sierra 9 worked. Meridian is secure." Diana nodded slightly, allowing herself to acknowledge the missions. Success before the accumulated strain overwhelmed her. As the medical team rushed her toward the base hospital, consciousness finally slipped away. Lieutenant Martinez watched from a distance, his earlier dismissal of the secretary replaced by stunned silence. Chief Petty Officer Woods stood beside him, equally speechless as the implications of what they'd witnessed sank in. "She was never just administration, was she?" Woods finally asked. Martinez shook his head slowly. "I've been running communications for 3 years. I should have recognized her voice from the mission recordings." "What mission recordings?" Martinez turned to her, his expression grave. "Operation Kingfisher. It was classified above our clearance, but I heard parts of the transmissions. That was Phantom's voice." In the base hospital, medical personnel worked frantically to stabilize Diana's condition. The neural interface had never been tested under such extreme conditions, and the feedback from the failing systems had caused damage that conventional medical protocols weren't designed to address. Dr. Eliza Weaver paced outside the treatment room, analyzing data from the Wraith's black box retrieved from the wreckage. "The neural load was at least 3 times what we predicted in simulations," she explained to Captain Warner. "No pilot should have been able to maintain that connection, let alone use it to land a failing aircraft. Will she recover?" Warner asked, watching through the window as doctors surrounded Diana's bed. I don't know, Weaver admitted. We're in uncharted territory. The human brain isn't designed to interface directly with computational systems at that intensity. Admiral Catherine Blackwood arrived at Meridian 6 hours after the attack, her helicopter landing on the pad adjacent to the hospital. She moved with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to command, her uniform impeccable despite the late hour. Status report, she demanded as Warner met her at the entrance. Base is secure. Enemy forces have retreated beyond our defensive perimeter. Intelligence suggests they've abandoned their operation entirely following the failure of their electronic warfare systems. Blackwood nodded curtly. And Captain Chun? Stable but unconscious. The medical team is consulting with specialists from the Neural Interface Development Division. The Admiral's expression remained neutral, but Warner detected a flash of concern in her eyes. I need to see her immediately. They walked in silence through the hospital corridors, medical personnel stepping aside respectfully as they passed. The specialized treatment room where Diana had been placed was guarded by 2 security officers with clearance levels Warner had never seen before. Inside, Diana lay still, connected to both conventional medical equipment and specialized monitoring devices that tracked neural activity. Dr. Weaver looked up from her data tablet as they entered. Admiral Blackwood, I was told to expect you. Doctor, what's her prognosis? Weaver hesitated, glancing at the monitoring equipment. The physical injuries are minor, stress-related primarily. The neural impact is more concerning. Her brain is showing patterns similar to those observed in test subjects who experienced prolonged sensory overload. Will there be permanent damage? Unknown. No one has ever sustained a neural interface connection through catastrophic system failure before. Theoretically, it should have been impossible. Blackwood approached Diana's bedside, studying her face with an expression that suggested their relationship went beyond professional military courtesy. Captain Chun has a habit of redefining what's possible. Warner remained near the door, feeling like an intruder in a moment that seemed deeply personal. Admiral, if I may ask, who is she really? Her personnel file says administrative support, but what I saw today. Blackwood turned to face him, weighing her response carefully. Captain Chun's official status is classified at a level beyond your clearance. What I can tell you is that she is the most gifted test pilot the Navy has ever produced. Operation Kingfisher changed that. The operation was listed as a failure in our records. Officially, yes. Unofficially. Blackwood glanced back at Diana. Captain Chun discovered that someone within our own command structure was compromising classified technology. Rather than expose herself by reporting through conventional channels, she chose to disappear. Warner processed this information. The pieces falling into place. She's been working undercover, tracking the security breach from within. For 4 years, Blackwood confirmed. Moving between bases, assuming administrative positions that gave her access to communications and security systems without drawing attention. She identified Meridian as a probable target 3 months ago. Dr. Weaver interrupted with sudden urgency. Her neural patterns are changing. I think she's regaining consciousness. Diana's eyes opened slowly, struggling to focus on the figures surrounding her bed. The transition from the merged consciousness of the neural interface back to normal human perception was disorienting, like emerging from deep water into blinding sunlight. Admiral, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mission status? Blackwood moved closer, her professional demeanor softening slightly. Successful. The enemy force has withdrawn completely. More importantly, we've identified their command structure through the electronic signatures you captured. Diana attempted to sit up, wincing as pain flashed through her head. The security breach. Confirmed. Your suspicions were correct. Commander Ellison at Pacific Command was coordinating with the hostile group. He's been taken into custody, along with 3 other officers implicated by the data. Relief crossed Diana's features briefly before being replaced by focused determination. The Wraith prototype? Severely damaged but salvageable, Dr. Weaver answered. More importantly, the data collected during your flight is invaluable. The neural interface performed beyond all projected parameters. Because it had to, Diana replied simply. Captain Warner stepped forward, his respect evident in his posture. Captain Chun, what you accomplished today, landing that aircraft, should have been physically impossible. Diana met his gaze, her expression revealing nothing of the pain she still felt. When lives are at stake, impossible becomes irrelevant. The room fell silent as medical staff entered to check Diana's vital signs. Admiral Blackwood used the interruption to draw Warner and Weaver aside, her voice low but authoritative. Everything related to Captain Chun's identity and activities remains classified at the highest level. As far as base personnel are concerned, she's an administrative assistant who happened to have specialized flight training, nothing more. Warner frowned. With respect, Admiral, that won't be believable to anyone who witnessed what happened today. She landed a failing experimental aircraft using nothing but a neural interface. That's not something you can explain away as specialized training. Then don't explain it, Blackwood replied firmly. Security classifications exist for a reason, Captain. As the medical staff completed their examination, Diana called. Out to them. Admiral, a moment please. Blackwood returned to her bedside, raising an eyebrow questioningly. The mission may be complete, but the threat isn't eliminated, Diana said quietly. Today's attack confirms what I suspected. Operation Kingfisher exposed only part of a larger network. They targeted the Wraith specifically, which means they knew about capabilities that haven't been made public. We've identified the immediate security breaches, Blackwood assured her. No, you've identified the obvious ones. There are others more deeply embedded. Diana's expression was resolute despite her weakened state. I need to continue my work. Blackwood studied her with concern. Dr. Weaver says the neural feedback caused significant strain. You need time to recover. What I need is to finish what I started 4 years ago, Diana countered. The network is exposed and vulnerable now. If we wait, they'll disappear again. Before Blackwood could respond, commotion erupted in the hallway outside. Lieutenant Martinez burst into the room, his usual composure shattered by urgency. Captain. Warner, sir. We're detecting unusual communications patterns across all frequencies. Something's happening with our systems. Warner turned to him sharply. Explain. It started about 2 minutes ago. Encrypted data packets flowing through our secure channels, but they're not ours. It's like someone opened a back door into our entire communications network. Diana struggled to sit up, ignoring the pain that flared through her head. They're extracting data. The attack was never about destroying the base. It was about creating a distraction while they accessed our systems. Impossible, Weaver protested. All systems were locked down during the attack. Not all systems, Diana said grimly. The neural interface development server is on a separate network. It wouldn't have been affected by standard lockdown protocols. Understanding dawned on Weaver's face. The Wraith's technical specifications, exactly. Diana was already disconnecting the monitoring equipment, despite the protests of medical staff. They couldn't steal the aircraft, so they're stealing its designs instead. Admiral Blackwood turned to Martinez. Shut down all communication systems immediately. Full blackout. That won't stop them, Diana said, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. They're using a quantum tunneling protocol. I recognize the signature during the attack. It creates a temporary link that can transmit data, even if conventional networks are disabled. Warner looked skeptical. Quantum tunneling is theoretical technology. Nobody has a working implementation. Nobody is supposed to, Diana agreed, standing unsteadily. But I saw it in development 3 years ago at the quantum computing lab. It was supposedly abandoned due to security concerns. Dr. Weaver was already accessing her tablet, her fingers flying across the screen. She's right. I'm detecting unusual activity in the quantum research server bank. Data is being extracted at an unprecedented rate. Diana took a step forward, stumbling slightly as her equilibrium failed her. Captain Warner instinctively moved to support her, his previous doubts forgotten. "What can we do?" he asked. "Get me to the communications center," Diana replied, her voice strengthening with purpose. "I can trace the quantum signature back to its source and implement a countermeasure." Admiral Blackwood hesitated, glancing at the medical staff who were clearly opposed to their patient leaving. "You're in no condition to." "With respect, Admiral," Diana interrupted. "I'm the only one who's encountered this technology before. Either I do this, or everything we've developed over the past decade walks out the door in the next 5 minutes." The decision took only seconds. "Captain Warner, escort Captain Chien to the communication center. Dr. Weaver, bring whatever equipment you need to monitor her condition. Martinez, alert the cybersecurity team to meet us there." The group moved through the hospital corridors with urgent purpose, Diana leaning heavily on Warner's arm but maintaining a determined pace. Personnel they passed stared in confusion at the woman they had known only as a quiet secretary, now clearly directing senior officers in the midst of a crisis. The communications center was a hive of frantic activity when they arrived. Cyber security specialists attempting to contain the data breach using conventional methods. "Clear that workstation," Diana ordered, pointing to the main terminal. As personnel scrambled to comply, she lowered herself carefully into the chair, the simple movement obviously causing her pain. "Dr. Weaver, I need access to the quantum frequency monitoring array." "That system is experimental," Weaver protested, even as she entered authorization codes. "It's never been used in a live security situation." "Today is full of firsts," Diana replied grimly, her fingers already moving across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. The main screen shifted to display a complex 3-dimensional representation of data flows, patterns that would have been meaningless to most observers, but which Diana interpreted with immediate understanding. "There," she said, indicating a pulsing red pathway that seemed to exist beneath the conventional data structures. "That's the quantum tunnel. They're extracting data from the neural interface design servers, and something else." Her brow furrowed as she dug deeper into the system. "They're not just taking technical specifications. They're copying the neural pattern recordings from my interface with the Wraith." Dr. Weaver moved closer, her expression alarmed. "That's impossible. Those recordings are stored in an air-gapped system." "Not anymore," Diana said, her fingers moving faster as she traced the intrusion path. "Someone physically connected the systems during the chaos of the attack." Admiral Blackwood's expression darkened. "We still have another infiltrator on base." Diana nodded, not taking her eyes from the screen. "And I know how to find them. The quantum tunnel requires a physical anchor point, a device that establishes the initial connection. It can't be more than 500 meters from this position." She manipulated the display, overlaying the quantum signature with a map of the base. A pulsing indicator appeared, showing the approximate location of the tunneling device. "It's in the maintenance hangar adjacent to where the Wraith crashed," she said. Convenient timing for someone to access the wreckage without drawing attention. Captain Warner was already issuing orders through his radio. "Security team to maintenance hangar 3, apprehend anyone inside. Consider them hostile and potentially armed." Diana continued working, her focus unwavering despite the visible toll it was taking on her already exhausted body. "Securing the device won't be enough. They've established the tunnel. Data is still flowing. Can you shut it down?" Blackwood asked. "Better than that," Diana replied, a hint of grim satisfaction in her voice. I can reverse it. Her hands moved across the interface with increasing speed, implementing a countermeasure that seemed to reshape the quantum tunnel itself. The red pathway on the display began to shift, changing direction as Diana rewrote its fundamental properties. "What exactly are you doing?" Dr. Weaver asked, watching in fascination. "Quantum tunneling works both ways," Diana explained without pausing. Her work, they opened a secure connection to extract our data. I'm maintaining that connection, but reversing the flow, sending a specialized virus back through their own tunnel. Warner looked impressed. "You can do that?" "I helped design the security protocols for quantum information systems before. Operation Kingfisher," Diana said. "I know exactly where the vulnerabilities are, because I created some of them intentionally." On the display, the data flow reversed completely, the red pathway now pulsing in the opposite direction. Diana sat back slightly, her expression satisfied despite the pain evident in her features. "Tracer program deployed. It's following their quantum tunnel back to the source, mapping their entire network infrastructure as it goes." Admiral Blackwood leaned forward. "You can identify all their operatives from this." "Not directly, but I can identify every system they've compromised, every access point they've established." Diana manipulated the display, revealing a growing map of connected nodes. "This is bigger than we thought, Admiral. The infiltration extends to at least 12 different military installations." The security team's report came through Warner's radio. "Captain, we've apprehended Lieutenant Commander James Foster in the maintenance hangar. He was attempting to remove a device from the area. Device is secured." Warner's expression hardened. "Foster was transferred here 3 months ago from Quantum Research Division. Perfect positioning," Diana noted. "He would have had access to both the quantum tunneling technology and the secure areas of Meridian." As the map of compromised systems continued to expand on the display, Diana suddenly straightened, her attention caught by a particular node in the network. "Admiral, they have access to the integrated defense network." That's how they were able to compromise Meridian's defensive systems so efficiently. Blackwood's composure faltered for the first time. "The IDN connects every major military installation in the country. If they have that level of access, they could potentially disable our entire defensive infrastructure simultaneously." Diana confirmed, "But not anymore." With a final series of commands, she activated the virus she had sent through the quantum tunnel. On the display, the compromised nodes began to change color from red to green as the virus isolated and neutralized. The infiltration pathways. The virus is severing their connections and implementing new security protocols that will prevent them from re-establishing access, Diana explained. More importantly, it's identifying every system they've touched and marking them for security. Review. The room fell silent as they watched the map transform, the extensive network of infiltration points revealing just how vulnerable they had been and how close to catastrophe. "This was years in the making," Admiral Blackwood said. Quietly, "a coordinated effort to compromise our most advanced defense technologies from within." Diana nodded, finally allowing herself to show the exhaustion that threatened to overwhelm her. Operation Kingfisher was just the beginning. "I knew the infiltration was too sophisticated to be the work of a few isolated individuals." As the last nodes on the display turned green, indicating the neutralization was complete, Diana slumped slightly in her chair. Dr. Weaver moved quickly to check her vital signs, her expression concerned. "She needs to return to medical immediately," Weaver said firmly. "Her neural patterns are showing signs of extreme stress." This time, Diana didn't protest as medical personnel helped her from the chair. The immediate crisis was contained, though the implications would take months or years to fully address. As they prepared to escort her back to the hospital, Lieutenant Martinez approached hesitantly. The communications officer who had dismissed her as just a secretary now stood. with a mixture of respect and embarrassment. "Captain Chun," he said, his usual confidence replaced by genuine humility. I owe you an apology. The way I spoke about you earlier today." Diana regarded him with tired but understanding eyes. "Lieutenant, in my position, being underestimated was a tactical advantage. Your assumptions about me were exactly what I needed you to have." Martinez nodded, accepting her response, but still clearly processing the revelation that the quiet administrative assistant had been one of the most skilled pilots in naval history, working undercover to expose a massive security breach. As Diana was led from the communications center, Captain Warner turned to Admiral Blackwood. "What happens now? The security breach is contained, but the implications will be addressed at the highest levels," Blackwood finished for him. "As for Captain Chen, that depends on her. Her official status has been Special Administrative Assignment for 4 years. Perhaps it's time for that to change." The next morning, Meridian Naval Air Station was superficially returning to normal operations. The damaged runway was under repair, and the wreckage of the Wraith had been moved to a secure facility for analysis. On the surface, it appeared to be the aftermath of a standard, if dramatic, security incident. But throughout the base, the atmosphere had changed. Personnel who had witnessed the events of the previous day spoke in hushed tones about the secretary, who had flown an experimental aircraft through impossible conditions and landed it when all systems had failed. The story was already growing with each retelling, details embellished and enhanced until Diana's actions approached mythological status. In the base hospital, Diana sat up in her bed, reviewing data on a secure tablet while medical staff monitored her recovery. The neural feedback had caused no permanent damage, though the doctors remained fascinated by her brain's unusual adaptability to the interface technology. Admiral Blackwood entered without ceremony, dismissing the medical staff with a gesture. When they were alone, she took a seat beside Diana's bed. "The quantum tunneling device has been fully analyzed," she reported. "It matches designs stolen from our research division 2 years ago, with significant enhancements. Technology that advanced shouldn't exist outside our most secure facilities." Diana set aside her tablet. "But it does, which means we're dealing with something bigger than internal security breaches. This is organized, well-funded, and sophisticated." "Agreed." Blackwood handed her a secure folder. "Which is why I'm here. This contains your new orders should you choose to accept them." Diana opened the folder, scanning the documents inside with increasing interest. "Task Force Phantom? That's a bit on the nose, Admiral. Sometimes the obvious choice is the right one." Blackwood allowed herself a small smile. "You've spent 4 years working alone, tracking this network from the inside. Now we're offering you the resources to finish what you started. A specialized team with the highest security clearance, operating outside conventional command structures." Diana considered the proposal, her expression thoughtful. "The last time I operated within the system, it nearly cost me everything. How can I be sure this task force won't be compromised?" "Because you'll select every member personally," Blackwood replied. "And because after yesterday's demonstration, I don't think anyone would question your judgment or your abilities." Outside the hospital room, Diana could hear personnel passing in the corridor, snippets of conversation drifting through the door. Her name, or rather her call sign, featured prominently in their discussions. The quiet anonymity she had maintained for 4 years had been shattered in a single afternoon of impossible aviation. "What about my cover?" she asked. "Everyone at Meridian now knows I'm not just administrative staff. Your official status remains classified," Blackwood assured her. "Those who need to know have been briefed. For everyone else, the story is simple. Diana Chun, former test pilot, returned to service in an emergency situation." "That's close enough to the truth to be believable," Diana acknowledged. "And the neural interface technology?" Development continues, with significant modifications based on the data collected during your flight. Dr. Weaver has requested you consult on the redesign, given your unique experience with the system under extreme conditions. Diana closed the folder, her decision made. When do we start? As soon as you're medically cleared, Blackwood replied. The network is in disarray after yesterday's countermeasures, but they'll regroup. We need to move quickly while they're vulnerable. As Blackwood rose to leave, she paused, her professional demeanor softening slightly. For what it's worth, what you did yesterday, landing that aircraft when every system had failed. The engineers say it should have been impossible. Diana's expression remained calm, but a hint of determination flickered in her eyes. When people's lives depend on you, Admiral, impossible is just another problem to solve. 3 weeks after the attack on Meridian Naval Air Station, Diana Chun stood in the Advanced Simulation Chamber at the Naval Aviation Development Center. The room was a perfect blank canvas, white walls, floor, and ceiling that could transform into any environment needed for training or testing. Today, it had become the cockpit of the next-generation XF-42 Wraith, recreated down to the smallest detail. Dr. Eliza Weaver monitored from the control booth, surrounded by screens displaying Diana's neural patterns as she interacted with the simulated aircraft. Neural synchronization at 89%, she reported. That's a 15% improvement over your previous session. Diana's fingers moved across the virtual controls with practiced precision, her mind interfacing with the simulation through a refined version of the neural sensors she had used during the actual flight. The connection felt cleaner now, more streamlined, with none of the painful feedback that had nearly incapacitated her during the emergency landing. The recalibration is working, Diana confirmed. The neural load is much more manageable. You're adapting faster than we anticipated, Weaver noted, making adjustments to the simulation parameters. Your brain is essentially rewiring itself to optimize for the interface. We've never seen anything like it. Diana completed a complex series of maneuvers, the simulated Wraith responding to her commands with perfect precision. Since the attack, she had divided her time between medical recovery, designing Task Force Phantom, and helping refine the neural interface technology. The work kept her focused, preventing her from dwelling on the network of infiltrators still operating within military structures around the world. Let's increase the difficulty, she suggested. Simulate complete systems failure during combat engagement. Weaver hesitated. That scenario nearly killed you in reality. Are you sure? You want to revisit it so soon? That's exactly why we need to understand it better, Diana replied. Next time, it might not be me in the cockpit. Whoever flies the Wraith needs to be prepared for worst-case scenarios. As the simulation parameters adjusted, introducing cascading system failures while simultaneously engaging hostile forces, Lieutenant Martinez entered the control booth. Since the attack, he had been reassigned to assist with communication security for the developing task force. His expertise valuable despite his initial misjudgment of Diana. Dr. Weaver, he said, nodding respectfully before turning his attention to the simulation. She's recreating the emergency landing? With modifications, Weaver confirmed. Captain Chun believes we need to develop protocols for neural interface operation during catastrophic failure. Martinez watched as Diana guided the failing virtual aircraft through impossible conditions. Her neural patterns showing intense concentration, but none of the dangerous spikes that had characterized her actual emergency landing. It's hard to believe that just a month ago I thought she was just, he trailed off, embarrassed. A secretary? Weaver finished for him, a hint of amusement in her voice. That was rather the point, Lieutenant. The best cover is one that makes people overlook you completely. In the simulation chamber, Diana successfully completed the emergency landing scenario, the virtual Wraith touching down with significantly less structural damage than had occurred in reality. As the simulation ended, the white room returned to its blank state, and Diana removed the neural sensors from her temples. Neural load remained within acceptable parameters throughout the entire scenario, Weaver noted with satisfaction. The redesigned interface is performing exceptionally well. Diana joined them in the control booth, reviewing the data from her session. The emergency protocol needs refinement. There's still too much sensory input during critical failures. A pilot without my specific training would be overwhelmed. Most pilots don't have your unique abilities, Martinez pointed out. The way you merged with the aircraft systems was unprecedented. Diana shook her head slightly. It wasn't about unique abilities. It was about understanding that the interface isn't just technology, it's a relationship. The Wraith isn't just responding to commands. It's interpreting intentions. Weaver made notes on her tablet. That perspective changes our entire approach to training. We've been focusing on technical mastery, but perhaps we should be addressing this psychological component more directly. Their discussion was interrupted as Admiral Blackwood entered, accompanied by Captain Warner and a tall, distinguished man in civilian clothes whom Diana recognized immediately, Dr. Nathan Chun, her father and one of the country's leading experts in quantum computing. Captain Chun, Blackwood said formally, though her eyes conveyed a warmer greeting. Your simulation results are impressive, Dr. Weaver. Tells me you're advancing the neural interface technology beyond our most optimistic projections. Diana acknowledged the compliment with a slight nod, her attention focused on her father. They hadn't spoken directly since before Operation Kingfisher 4 years ago. His top-secret work and her deep cover assignment, making normal family contact. Impossible. Admiral, she replied, maintaining professional composure. I wasn't aware Dr. Chun had been brought into the project. Recent developments made his expertise necessary, Blackwood explained. The quantum tunneling technology used in the attack on Meridian has revealed vulnerabilities in our systems that we hadn't anticipated. Dr. Chun stepped forward, his expression a complex mixture of professional interest and paternal concern. The attack signature matched theoretical work that was stolen from my laboratory 3 years ago, he said. Work that was never supposed to move beyond concept stage because of its security implications. Diana understood immediately. They've advanced your research from theoretical to practical application. Yes, her father confirmed. And if they've implemented even half of what was in those files, our conventional security measures are obsolete. Captain Warner, who had been silently observing the exchange, added, The infiltration network you exposed goes deeper than we initially thought. Lieutenant Commander Foster has provided some information under interrogation, but he was clearly just one node in a much larger system. Admiral Blackwood gestured toward the door. This discussion should continue in a more secure location. Task Force Phantom has been assigned dedicated facilities in Section K. As they walked through the research complex, Diana found herself beside her father, the first opportunity for anything resembling private conversation in years. You look well, he said quietly. Although your mother would say you're too thin. How is she? Diana asked, genuine concern in her voice. Her disappearance into deep cover had been hardest on her mother, who hadn't been cleared to know the truth about her assignment. Relieved, Dr. Chun replied. When Admiral Blackwood finally told us you were alive and working undercover, it answered years of questions. She's proud of you, though still upset about being kept in the dark. Diana nodded, understanding the complicated emotions her unusual career path had created for her family. And you? Still disappointed I didn't follow you into research? A hint of a smile crossed her father's face. After what you accomplished at Meridian? I think you've proven your path was the right one. Though I never imagined my theoretical work on neural interfaces would end up saving my daughter's life. They reached Section K, a newly renovated area of the complex with enhanced security measures and specialized equipment. The main room contained advanced communication systems, multiple workstations, and a large central display currently showing a global map with dozens of highlighted locations. Task Force Phantom's Operational Center, Admiral Blackwood announced. As they entered, "Designed to your specifications, Captain Chun." Diana surveyed the room with approval, noting the specialized equipment she had requested and the careful layout. That would facilitate the type of multidisciplinary work the task force would require. "The team is being assembled now," Blackwood continued. "Each member selected based on your recommendations and vetted through multiple security protocols to ensure no further infiltration." "What about the Wraith?" Diana asked. "Has the prototype been recovered from the crash?" Dr. Weaver, who had accompanied them, brought up technical schematics on the main display. "Partially. The airframe was beyond salvage, but we recovered approximately 70% of the critical systems, including the neural interface core. More importantly, we retrieved complete data recordings from your flight. Which brings us to why we've assembled here today," Admiral Blackwood said, her tone becoming more formal. "Captain Chun, what you accomplished during the attack on Meridian wasn't just extraordinary piloting. According to Dr. Weaver's analysis, you achieved something previously thought impossible: a complete neural synchronization with the aircraft's systems." Diana's father stepped forward, examining the neural pattern displays with professional interest. "The data suggests you weren't just controlling the aircraft through the interface. At certain points, particularly during the emergency landing, the distinction between pilot and aircraft effectively disappeared." "That's consistent with my experience," Diana confirmed. "When the systems began failing, the only way to maintain control was to essentially become the aircraft, to feel its damaged systems as extensions of my own body." "Which should have been theoretically impossible," Dr. Weaver added. "The interface was designed to translate cognitive commands into system operations, not to create a true merged consciousness." Captain Warner looked skeptical. "You're suggesting Captain Chun actually merged minds with a machine?" "Not exactly," Diana's father clarified. "The neural interface created a temporary shared cognitive space, neither fully human nor fully machine. It's something we theorized might be possible decades from now, with significantly advanced technology. Not something we expected to see demonstrated in a combat situation with current generation systems." Admiral Blackwood redirected the conversation to practical matters. "What matters is that this breakthrough gives us a critical advantage. The hostile network that attacked Meridian was after the Wraith's neural interface technology. They didn't get it, but they now know it exists and that it's more advanced than they anticipated. They'll be looking for other ways to acquire it," Diana concluded, "which means we can use that knowledge to set a trap." The Admiral nodded. "Precisely. Operation Mirror Shade, a controlled leak of incomplete neural interface data that appears valuable enough to attract their attention." Diana studied the operational outline that appeared on the main display, quickly identifying both its potential and its flaws. "This could work, but it has significant risks. If they realize it's a trap, we lose our advantage." "Which is why you'll be personally overseeing the operation," Blackwood stated. "Your understanding of both the technology and the infiltration network makes you uniquely qualified." Dr. Chun looked concerned. "Admiral, given what happened at Meridian, is it wise to place my daughter in such a visible position? If these people realize she's the one who reversed their quantum tunnel and exposed their network." "They already know," Diana said quietly. "My cover was effectively blown when I flew the Wraith. Any organization sophisticated enough to develop quantum tunneling technology would have identified me by now." Warner nodded in agreement. "Captain Chun is right. Attempting to re-establish cover would be futile and potentially dangerous. Better to operate from a position of acknowledged strength." Which brings us to the second phase of Task Force Phantom's mission, Admiral Blackwood said. bringing up a new set of files on the display. Beyond securing our technology, we need to identify and neutralize the entire infiltration network. Captain Chun's countermeasure gave us a starting point, but we need to trace it back to its source. Diana studied the information, recognizing patterns and connections that might have seemed random to others. Her years of tracking the network from within had given her insights that even the most sophisticated intelligence analysis couldn't provide. These aren't just security breaches, she observed. They're positioned specifically around our most advanced research projects, neural interfaces, quantum computing, advanced propulsion systems. Whoever is behind this isn't just seeking military advantage. They're after technological transformation. Her father stepped closer to the display, his expression grave as he recognized the implications. They're building something. Something that combines elements from multiple advanced technologies. The question is what, Diana said, her mind already racing ahead to potential scenarios, and how far along they are in development. Admiral Blackwood allowed the group a moment to absorb the gravity of the situation before continuing. Operation Mirror Shade begins in 72 hours. Captain Chun, you'll have operational authority over all aspects of the mission, with direct reporting to me and only me. The meeting continued with detailed planning sessions, assignment of initial team members, and discussion of the specialized equipment the task force would require. Throughout, Diana remained focused and analytical, her mind continuously processing the complex web of information before her. Hours later, as the initial planning session concluded, Diana found herself alone with her father in the Task Force Operations Center. He studied the global map of infiltration points with the careful attention of someone who understood patterns on a fundamental level. "When you disappeared after Operation Kingfisher," he said quietly, "your mother and I feared the worst. Even when Admiral Blackwood finally told us you were alive, I couldn't understand why you chose to go so deep undercover." Diana joined him at the display, her own attention drawn to the pattern she had spent years tracking. "Because I saw something no one else did." These weren't random security breaches or isolated espionage attempts. They were coordinated, patient, and methodical characteristics of someone playing a much longer game than we were prepared to recognize. "And you knew the only way to expose it was from within," her father concluded. "By becoming invisible yourself. Sometimes the only way to see clearly is to step into the shadows," Diana agreed. "As a secretary, I was effectively invisible. People spoke freely around me, shared access codes without concern, left sensitive materials unattended." Dr. Chun shook his head slightly, a mixture of admiration and regret in his expression. "All those years of training, breaking aviation records, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in experimental aircraft, and your greatest contribution came when you set all of that aside to sit quietly at a desk, watching and waiting." "It wasn't about glory," Diana said simply. "It was about doing what needed to be done, regardless of recognition." Her father turned to face her directly, his professional detachment giving way to paternal pride. "Your mother always said you had a special kind of courage, not just the obvious kind that lets you fly experimental aircraft, but the quieter kind that allows you to do what's right even when no one is watching." Diana smiled slightly, remembering her mother's unwavering support throughout her unconventional career path. She would know. She spent 30 years in intelligence analysis, making crucial discoveries that others took credit for. "And now you're stepping back into the light," Dr. Chun observed. "Leading a task force, publicly acknowledging your expertise, that carries its own risks." "Different risks, but necessary ones," Diana agreed. "The network knows I exist now. Better to operate from a position where I can use that knowledge to our advantage." The conversation was interrupted as Lieutenant Martinez entered, carrying a secure tablet. He hesitated, clearly not wanting to intrude on what appeared to be a personal moment. Captain Chen, preliminary analysis of the quantum tunneling device is complete, he reported, handing her the tablet. Dr. Weaver asked me to deliver this to you personally. Diana accepted the device, quickly reviewing the information. Thank you, Lieutenant. Please inform Dr. Weaver that I'll meet with her technical team at 0800 tomorrow to discuss implementation in Operation Mirror Shade. As Martinez left, her father observed with mild amusement. He seems quite respectful now. A change from how he viewed this secretary, I imagine. People see what they expect to see, Diana replied without judgment. Martinez is actually an excellent communications officer. His assumptions about me were a reflection of broader institutional biases, not personal failings. Your ability to understand people's motivations will serve you well as task force leader, Dr. Chun noted. Technical expertise alone isn't enough for what you're undertaking. Diana set aside the tablet, turning her attention back to the global display. The people we're pursuing understand technology, but they also understand human nature. How to exploit assumptions, how to use institutional blind spots to their advantage. That's what made them so effective for so long. And what makes you uniquely qualified to stop them, her father concluded. You've operated on both sides of the equation, the visible expert and the invisible observer. Later that evening, Diana stood alone on the observation deck of the research facility, watching as the sun set over the distant mountains. The events at Meridian had catapulted her from deep cover back into the world of direct action, a transition that still felt unfamiliar after years of deliberate invisibility. The door opened behind her, and Captain Warner joined her at the railing. Since the attack, he had been temporarily assigned to assist with Task Force Phantom's establishment, his experience at Meridian providing valuable perspective. Admiral Blackwood asked me to deliver this, he said, handing her a small box. Said you might need it for what's coming next. Diana opened the box to find a set of pilot's wings, not standard issue, but a specialized insignia she recognized immediately. The wings worn by test pilots assigned to experimental aircraft, with a small additional element, a stylized phantom figure etched into the metal. The Admiral had them made specially, Warner explained. Said something about proper recognition being overdue. Diana studied the wings, feeling the weight of what they represented, not just her past achievements as a test pilot, but the years spent in the shadows, gathering information that no one else could access. Task Force Phantom has been officially activated, Warner continued. Initial team members arrive tomorrow for briefing. Dr. Weaver's technical group has already begun implementing the mirror shade protocols. Diana returned her attention to the sunset, considering the rapid changes that had occurred since that day at Meridian when her carefully constructed cover had been shattered by necessity. Captain, Warner said, his tone shifting to something more personal, what you did at Meridian, landing that aircraft when every system had failed. I've been flying for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't about skill, Diana replied honestly. It was about necessity. 4,000 people on that base were depending on those defensive systems. Failure wasn't an option. Warner nodded, understanding the simplicity behind what appeared to be an impossible act of piloting. That's what the best pilots always say. That when it really matters, you don't think about whether something is possible, you just do what needs to be done. And hope your training is good enough to make the difference, Diana added. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching as the last light faded from the sky and stars began to appear. The Admiral mentioned you'll be flight testing the next Wraith prototype once it's ready, Warner said eventually. After what happened to the first one, most pilots would be hesitant. Diana smiled slightly. Most pilots haven't experienced what that aircraft is capable of. The neural interface technology isn't just an advancement in aviation, it's a fundamental shift in how humans interact with machines. The potential goes far beyond military applications. Your father said something similar during the briefing, Warner noted. That the technology could revolutionize everything from medical treatments to space exploration. Which is exactly why the infiltration network wants it, Diana concluded. And why we need to ensure it develops under proper oversight. As she prepared to return to her quarters, Diana paused, considering the wings Warner had delivered. After a moment's reflection, she pinned them to her uniform, not out of vanity or desire for recognition, but as a reminder of the dual nature of her mission. Part of her work would continue in the shadows, tracking and identifying the infiltration network, but another part now required her to step forward publicly, to use her expertise and experience openly in service of something larger than herself. It's time to show these infiltrators that disappearing isn't the same as being invisible, and that sometimes what you can't see is exactly what you should fear most. The transport pushed to its operational limits, cutting through the darkening sky toward the carrier group, now visible on the horizon. Through the viewport, Diana could see the massive form of the USS Constellation, surrounded by its escort vessels. Above them loomed an unnatural storm formation, swirling clouds illuminated by frequent lightning that seemed to follow strangely regular patterns. "Captain Chun." "Constellation Actual," came the voice of Captain Eleanor Harris, the carrier's commanding officer. "We're tracking your approach. Be advised, we're experiencing significant electronic interference. Communications and radar systems operating at reduced capacity." "Understood, Constellation. Prepare for immediate landing. I need direct access to the special package in Hangar Bay 3 upon arrival." The transport executed a perfect landing. Despite the increasingly turbulent conditions, touching down on the carrier's deck as rain began to fall in sheets. Diana led her team quickly into the interior of the massive vessel, where Captain Harris waited to escort them personally. "Situation report," Diana requested as they moved through the carrier's corridors toward the specialized hangar bay. "Electronic systems began experiencing interference approximately 40 minutes ago," Harris explained. "Initially minor glitches, but rapidly escalating to significant disruptions. Weapons targeting systems, communications, and radar all affected. The 3 vessels we were tracking have maintained distance, but deployed smaller craft that are compromised. Systems can't properly track." They reached the secure hangar bay, where the XF-42B Wraith prototype sat under protective coverings, surrounded by specialized equipment and a small team of technicians who had been aboard to continue refinement of its systems. "Dr. Weaver." "Full diagnostic immediately," Diana ordered as the coverings were removed, revealing the sleek form of the advanced aircraft. Unlike the original prototype, destroyed at Meridian, this version featured refined lines and a slightly altered configuration, based on lessons learned from the first test flight. "Initial readings show all systems nominal," Weaver reported after connecting her diagnostic equipment. "Neural interface is online and stable. No evidence of electronic compromise." Diana approached the aircraft, running her hand along its fuselage with the familiarity of someone greeting an old friend. "The isolation protocols worked. They've compromised the carrier's systems, but the Wraith remains secure." A violent tremor shook the entire carrier, nearly knocking them off their feet. Captain Harris grabbed a nearby communication terminal. "Bridge, report." "Multiple impacts detected, Captain," came the urgent reply. "Unknown projectiles striking the carrier. Defensive systems failed to detect approach. We have fires on the flight deck and damage to the island structure." Diana made an immediate decision. They're using the electronic interference as cover for a direct attack. "Captain Harris, your vessel is the primary target. We need to draw their attention away from the Constellation." "How do you propose to do that?" Harris asked. "By giving them a more valuable target," Diana replied, already moving toward the Wraith's access ladder. "They want the prototype and its technology. I'm going to let them think they have a chance to get it. Dr. Weaver looked alarmed. Captain Chun, we haven't completed full pre-flight checks on the neural interface. After what happened at Meridian. We don't have time for standard protocols, Diana interrupted. If we lose the carrier, we lose everything. Dr. Weaver, final interface calibration while I prepare for launch. Captain Harris, I need an emergency launch corridor cleared as soon as possible. As Diana climbed into the Wraith's cockpit, the specialized environment felt both familiar and improved from her previous experience. The neural interface sensors were more refined, the cockpit configuration streamlined based on data from her. Emergency flight. Neural link initializing, she reported as the sensors connected with her temples. Interface synchronization at 94%, significantly better than the first prototype. Through the neural link, Diana could feel the Wraith's systems integrating with her consciousness, not the painful, overwhelming connection of her emergency flight, but a smooth, balanced merger that enhanced her awareness without compromising her identity. Captain Chun, we've cleared a launch path, Harris reported. But be advised we've lost most of our radar capability. You'll be flying blind once you leave the carrier. Not blind, Diana corrected, powering up the Wraiths. Advanced systems. The neural interface gives me access to sensor data beyond conventional radar. I'll see them even if they can't see me. Another impact rocked the carrier, more violent than the first. Alarms blared throughout the hangar bay as damage reports flooded in from multiple sections of the massive vessel. Launch now, ordered Captain Harris. We'll maintain defensive positions as best we can with compromised systems. The hangar bay doors opened, revealing the chaos on the flight deck. Rain lashed down in sheets, driven by unnatural wind patterns. Through gaps in the storm, Diana could see the silhouettes of unknown aircraft executing attack runs against the carrier group. Wraith, cleared for emergency launch, came the flight controller's voice. May God be with you. Diana guided the prototype through the abbreviated launch sequence, the Wraith's advanced systems compensating for the compromised launch facilities. As the aircraft shot forward along the carrier's deck, she felt the neural interface deepening, providing instinctive awareness of the Wraith's performance parameters and the surrounding environment. The prototype left the deck and soared upward into the manufactured storm, immediately encountering turbulence that would have challenged conventional aircraft. Through the neural link, Diana perceived the disturbances not as threats but as information. Patterns she could navigate by becoming part of the air currents rather than fighting against them. Constellation, this is Wraith. I'm airborne and tracking multiple hostile aircraft, she reported. Configuration unknown, not matching any recognized military designs. Copy, Wraith, replied Captain Harris. Our systems are too compromised to provide support. You're on your own up there. Diana climbed through the storm layer, emerging above the unnatural cloud formation that concealed the battle below. From this vantage point, she could see the true scope of the attack. At least 12 advanced aircraft executing coordinated strikes against the carrier group, using the electronic interference and artificial weather conditions as cover. These aren't conventional forces, she transmitted to Task Force headquarters. The aircraft design and attack patterns suggest technology significantly beyond current military capabilities. Admiral Blackwood's voice came through, distorted by interference, but clear enough to understand. Confirmed, Wraith. Intelligence analysis suggests we're dealing with a private military organization with access to advanced prototypes. Priority remains protecting the neural interface technology. Through the Wraith's sensors, enhanced by her neural connection, Diana detected a subtle shift in the attack pattern. As she'd predicted, her presence above the storm had been noticed, and several hostile aircraft were breaking off their attack on the carrier to investigate the new threat. They've spotted me, she reported, redirecting as planned to draw them away from the constellation. Diana banked the Wraith away from the carrier group, accelerating to speeds that pushed the boundaries of aeronautical engineering. The neural interface allowed her to feel the aircraft's responses at a fundamental level, making adjustments to maintain optimal performance without relying on instruments or displays. 4 hostile aircraft peeled away from the main attack force, pursuing the Wraith with unexpected acceleration capabilities. Diana pushed the prototype harder, climbing higher into the stratosphere where the Wraith's advanced systems would have maximum advantage. "Hostiles maintaining pursuit," she reported. "Their performance capabilities exceed known parameters for existing aircraft. Whoever built these has access to technology comparable to our own advanced research." Through the neural link, Diana sensed rather than saw the weapons locked from the pursuing aircraft. Acting on instinct enhanced by the interface, she executed an impossible maneuver, a combination of roll, pitch, and yaw that no conventional aircraft could survive and no conventional pilot could control. The incoming missiles streaked past, harmlessly, confused by the Wraith's sudden shift in trajectory and its advanced electronic countermeasures. "They're using some form of quantum-guided weapons system," Diana analyzed. "Conventional evasive maneuvers won't be effective. I need to engage directly." "Negative, Wraith," came Admiral Blackwood's immediate response. "Primary mission remains protection of the prototype. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary." Diana assessed the tactical situation through the enhanced awareness provided by the neural interface. The hostile aircraft were herding her away from the carrier group, using their superior numbers to control her flight path while maintaining pursuit. "Admiral, their tactics suggest they want the Wraith intact," she reported. "They're trying to force me into a specific vector, away from reinforcements and toward something." Expanding her sensor awareness through the neural link, Diana detected an anomalous reading approximately 200 miles from her current position. A massive vessel concealed beneath the ocean surface, emitting energy signatures unlike anything in known military inventories. "Located their primary platform," she transmitted. "Submerged vessel, coordinates being sent now." Size and configuration suggest advanced support capacity for their aircraft. The pursuing hostiles adjusted their formation, continuing to herd her toward the submerged vessel while maintaining non-lethal pressure. Diana recognized the strategy. They wanted the Wraith and its neural interface technology, preferably intact and with its pilot capable of explaining its operation. A plan formed in her mind, dangerous but potentially decisive. "Admiral, requesting permission to proceed with Protocol Omega." There was a pause before Blackwood responded, understanding the implications of what Diana was proposing. "Confirm. Protocol Omega, Captain Chun. But be aware, extraction options will be limited." "Understood. Proceeding with Omega." Diana adjusted her course, appearing to comply with the hostile aircraft's herding tactics while subtly altering her approach. Vector. Through the neural interface, she initiated a specialized program designed by her father and Dr. Weaver, a modified version of the quantum countermeasure she had deployed during the Meridian attack. "Preparing systems for deep penetration," she reported, neural interface at maximum synchronization. The pursuing aircraft maintained their positions, clearly believing they were successfully guiding the Wraith toward their hidden base. What they couldn't know was that Diana was using the neural interface to map their communication patterns, identifying the quantum signatures that connected them to their control center. As they approached the coordinates of the submerged vessel, Diana could feel the increasing electronic pressure as powerful systems attempted to interface with the Wraith's computers. Through the neural link, these attempts manifested as subtle probes against her consciousness, sophisticated but ultimately ineffective against the merged awareness she shared with the aircraft. "They're attempting remote access of the Wraith's systems," she reported. "Quantum signatures match those from the Meridian attack. Confirmation that this is the same organization." The ocean below began to churn as the massive submerged vessel started to surface, revealing a structure unlike any conventional military craft. Part aircraft carrier, part research vessel, its design suggested a fusion of technologies from multiple sources, created outside the constraints of traditional military development processes. Visual confirmation of primary hostile platform. Diana transmitted. Design confirms our theory. Private military organization with advanced technological capabilities. They're surfacing to recover the Wraith. Understood, Captain Chun, Admiral Blackwood responded. Carrier strike group is mobilizing to your position, but they're at least 20 minutes out. You're on your own until then. Diana guided the Wraith into a holding pattern above the emerging vessel, appearing to comply with electronic signals directing her toward a specialized recovery platform on its deck. Through the neural interface, she continued mapping the vessel's electronic infrastructure, identifying key systems and vulnerabilities. Protocol Omega Phase 1 complete, she reported. I have comprehensive mapping of their quantum communication network. Proceeding to Phase 2. The neural interface deepened as Diana engaged the specialized program, her consciousness expanding into the electronic environment surrounding the Wraith. Unlike her emergency experience at Meridian, this was a controlled merge, allowing her to perceive and interact with the quantum-based communication systems used by the hostile organization. Through this expanded awareness, Diana could see the true extent of the infiltration network, not just the military systems they had compromised, but the vast web of influence extending into research institutions, defense contractors, and government agencies worldwide. Admiral, I'm transmitting mapping data now, she reported. The infiltration is more extensive than we estimated. This organization has been operating for at least a decade, placing key personnel in positions throughout the defense infrastructure. As the Wraith descended toward the recovery platform, Diana implemented the final stage of Protocol Omega. Using the neural interface as a conduit, she deployed the specialized virus her father had designed, a quantum algorithm that could penetrate the organization's secure communications and systematically expose every compromised system and agent in their network. Protocol Omega deployed, she transmitted. Virus is propagating through their quantum network. Estimated complete infiltration in 60 seconds. The effect was immediate. Across the surface vessel, systems began to fail as the virus spread through their network, disrupting the quantum communications that coordinated their operations. The hostile aircraft surrounding the Wraith suddenly broke formation, their pilots losing connection with the central command structure. Infiltration at 40%, Diana reported, monitoring the virus's progress through the neural interface. Their entire communication infrastructure is collapsing. Below, the massive vessel began emergency protocols, attempting to submerge again as its systems failed. Diana seized the opportunity, breaking from her descent path and accelerating away from the compromised platform. Wraith is clear of immediate danger, she transmitted. Hostile forces in disarray. Protocol Omega has successfully compromised their command and control capabilities. Through the neural link, Diana could sense the virus completing its primary objective, mapping every node in the infiltration network and transmitting the data back to Task Force Phantom. Names, locations, access points, everything needed to dismantle the organization that had threatened military security for years. Admiral, virus has achieved 100% penetration, she reported. We now have complete mapping of their network infrastructure and personnel. Recommend immediate coordinated action to apprehend identified agents before they can go to ground. Understood, Captain Chen, Blackwood responded. Coordinated operations are already underway based on the initial data. Return to the Constellation immediately. The carrier group will secure the hostile vessel. Diana banked the Wraith back toward the carrier group, the neural interface providing perfect situational awareness despite the continuing electronic interference. Below, the hostile vessel was now fully compromised, its advanced systems rendered useless by the quantum virus. "Mission accomplished, Admiral," she transmitted. "Protocol Omega has exceeded expected parameters. The infiltration network has been exposed and neutralized." As she guided the prototype back toward the waiting carrier, Diana reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From the quiet anonymity of her administrative cover to the decisive action that had exposed a threat years in the making. Each step had been necessary, each role equally important in achieving the ultimate goal. The Wraith's neural interface hummed in perfect synchronization with her thoughts, representing not just a technological breakthrough but a new understanding of how humans and machines could work together. It was this understanding, born from her unique perspective as both an elite pilot and an overlooked observer, that had ultimately proven decisive. "Captain Chun," came Admiral Blackwood's voice, "preliminary reports indicate we've identified over 300 infiltration agents across 47 different agencies and organizations. The network you've exposed represents the most significant security breach in modern military history. And its neutralization represents our most significant counterintelligence victory." Diana responded, guiding the Wraith toward the repaired flight deck of the Constellation. As she prepared for landing, Diana knew that the story of what had happened here would eventually become part of military legend, how an underestimated secretary had revealed herself to be the key to neutralizing a threat that conventional forces couldn't even detect. But the true lesson went deeper than dramatic reveals or technological breakthroughs. "Wraith, you are cleared for landing," came the Constellation's flight controller. "And Captain Chun, thank you." Diana smiled slightly as she guided the prototype toward the carrier deck. "Just doing my job, all of my jobs." The Wraith touched down perfectly on the Constellation's deck, completing a mission that had begun years earlier, when a decorated pilot had made the difficult decision to disappear into administrative anonymity. As systems powered down and the neural interface gently disengaged, Diana Chun prepared to step back into the world she had helped make safer, not as a secretary or a pilot, but as someone who understood the value of both roles in achieving something truly extraordinary. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.